Just how bad is the new Transformers movie? Will it make Sir Michael Bay roll in his freaking cinematic grave? Is it more than meets the eye? All this and more in this episode of... All right, buckle up, kiddos. It's time for Uncle Kino to take you on a magical mystery tour of the latest cinematic equivalent of a sugar rush, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another Transformers movie? Is Hollywood that desperate for ideas? Well, my dear naive YouTube viewer, the answer is yes. Yes, they are. The bar for Transformers movies is so low, it's practically a trip hazard. It's like expecting a Thundercats reboot to be the next Godfather. But, surprise, surprise, Rise of the Beasts manages to clear that bar with room to spare. It's like watching a limbo champion strut under a bar set at the height of a giraffe's knee. Not exactly a Herculean feat, but hey, we'll take what we can get. Especially after all this Disney, DC, Fast and Furious and Marvel, Spider-Man aside, crap that has came out lately. The plot revolves around a magical MacGuffin called the Transwarp Key, which is basically a cosmic bus pass that lets you travel through time and space. It's guarded by the Maximals, who are like Transformers, but with more fur and fewer wheels. They're trying to keep it away from Unicron, who's essentially a planet-sized version of that guy who always steals your lunch from the office fridge. You know the one? If you don't know who Unicron is, watch the original animated Transformers movie from the 80s. It is pretty amazing. And stands up in a weird sort of way. Our human protagonist is Noah Diaz, a military vet trying to make ends meet in Brooklyn. He's got a sick brother, a struggling mom, and a job hunt that's going about as well as a Decepticon at an Autobot family reunion. In a twist of fate that's as predictable as a rerun of Saved by the Bell, he ends up stealing a Porsche that's actually a Transformer. Because of course it is. Meanwhile, a museum researcher named Elena stumbles upon the Transwarp Key and accidentally sets off a cosmic game of hot potato. This includes the Porsche, which turns out to be a Transformer named Mirage, voiced by Pete Davidson. Because nothing says alien robot in disguise like the voice of a guy from Staten Island. The human characters are surprisingly well developed, which is a bit like saying the dialogue in a Godzilla movie is surprisingly nuanced. Noah's relationship with his brother is a key part of the story, and it's woven into his interactions with the Transformers in a way that's as seamless as a well-oiled gear. Optimus Prime, the grand poobah of the Autobots, also gets a bit of character development. He's gone from being a stoic, chrome-plated Boy Scout to a leader with a bit of an edge. He's more interested in protecting his own kind than the humans, which is a refreshing change from the usual robots good, humans better narrative. The movie does stumble a bit in the second act, which takes place in Peru and feels about as necessary as a third wheel on a bicycle. But just when you're ready to throw in the towel, the third act kicks in and it's like a shot of adrenaline straight to the spark plug. The 1990s setting is a mixed bag. On one hand, it's a nostalgia trip complete with a hip-hop soundtrack that'll have you dusting off your old cassette tapes. On the other hand, it's a bit restrictive in terms of which Transformers can appear. But hey, at least we get to see Bumblebee and Optimus Prime again. The villains this time around are the Terracons, who are like Decepticons, but with more spikes and less personality. The big bad is Unicron, but we never really get a sense of his grand plan or why he's such a threat. It's a bit like watching a Bond villain who never gets to explain his master plan before Bond blows up his lair. It's like a game of Clue where you know who did it, but nobody bothers to tell you why or how. Despite its flaws, Rise of the Beasts manages to be a fun ride. It's like a roller coaster that's a bit rickety and makes some weird turns, but still leaves you with a grin on your face. If you're a fan of Transformers, you'll find plenty to enjoy. If you're not, well, there's always the popcorn. Or the exit. Whichever is closer. The movie ends on a high note that's as exciting as finding a mint-condition Optimus Prime action figure still in the box at a yard sale. It's a solid addition to the Transformers franchise, proving that it's possible to do something worthwhile with these characters. It's like finding a diamond in a pile of Energon cubes, or a needle in a haystack, or a plot in a Michael Bay movie. A win. And these days of multi-generational intellectual properties that are cynically exploited to a global audience of nostalgic losers like you and I will take a win when I can get it. So there you have it, folks. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. is a fun, if flawed, romp through the world of robots in disguise. It's not going to win any Oscars. You probably don't want to take your date to it unless they are that super hot, plus-sized, mid-40s incel you met over on 4chan. But it's a far cry from the cinematic equivalent of stepping on a Lego. So grab your snacks, put on your 3D glasses, and prepare to roll out. Just remember, no matter how bad things get, at least it's not another singing mermaid or bed-crapping Marvel movie.